Module 3, Lesson 5, I believe we're on, involves with applying integer operations. What does that mean in simple terms? It means we're going to go visit Aunt Sally. Good old-fashioned, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, also known as PEMDAS, also known as using your order of operations. So let us get started in here with example 1, order of operations. You should know how to do this. Remember, please, parentheses, excuse or exponents and radicals. Radicals fall in for the exponents again. Then you do my dear, multiply, divide from left to right in one step, and Aunt Sally, add and subtract from left to right in one step. So for this problem that they've given us, you've got, let's first see if I've missed anything in the launch lesson that is of value to us. I don't think so. Nope, nothing about PEMDAS there. They're just expecting you to remember it. So, diving into this, you've got a problem that starts off as -4 times 3 plus a -7. Let's see how they work it, and then if need be, I will rework it my way. So first off, they're going to take and do the please, no parentheses. Yes, well, there is, but they're just holding in multiplication problems or negative signs. Nothing inside parentheses will work. Excuse, there's no exponents and radicals. My dear, there was multiply and divide from left to right, and -4 times a +3. That gave them the -12 right here. Now, if it was me, I would have started off by making the ugly problem pretty and multiplying a positive times a negative. Let's see if they do that here next. And boom, nope, they totally skipped that. So a step that I would like to see in the middle of that to justify your supporting work, let's go ahead and throw it down right here. And we're going to take, and if I can get it to actually paste, the step I would expect to see the support to go in the middle right here is going to be a -12. Positive times a negative is a -7, and then this right here, that would qualify as showing your work and being what I have to see. Now, you guys take a minute. Let's see. Actually, let me go back and see if we missed anything else here. They went through boom, 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 and of course, yep, -19 is what you put in for your answer there. And from there, we've got, yep, nothing of excitement there, so we're going to skip over that, and we're going to go on to extra example number 1, where you're going to pause the video and work this one on your own. So how'd that one work out for you? If it was me doing it, first thing I would do is I'm going to make the ugly problem pretty, because I just don't like ugly problems. So I'm going to start off leaving the -42 divided by 6 alone, and I'm going to say positive times the negative is a negative, and that's going to be this problem right here. You could save that for the next step if you wanted to, but I would personally do that first. Next, multiply and divide from left to right. 42 divided by 6 is 7. A negative divided by a positive is a negative. -5 comes down. You have to be showing all your supporting work as you do this, every step of the way. Next, signs are the same. Find the sum, which is 12, and the sign in front of your larger number goes in front of your answer. That's going to give us a -12. Jump back over here, type in our -12 and check, and the answer checks. Easy math, absolutely nothing at all to working these problems. Now we're going to move on to example number 2. For example number 2, you've got a whole bunch of numbers being multiplied and then a little ugly subtraction here. Once again, if it was me, I'd start off by making the ugly problem pretty, multiplying the signs. I don't think they're going to do that. Instead, they're going to do the -4 times the -5, and -4 times the -5 gave them a +20, and then everything else came over here. Now do me a favor, don't do it to the right like they are. Every new part of the problem you need to bring down to a new line. It makes it a whole lot easier to read. From here, a 20 times the -2, 20 times 2 is 40, positive times the negative is a negative. That gave them a -40, and look at that, they made the ugly problem pretty too. They said their negative times the negative became a positive, and now you're at a position where signs are different. You're going to find the difference. The difference between 40 and 8 is going to be 32, and the sign from a larger number is a negative, so you're going to get a -32 for your final answer, and it checks. Easy math, nothing to do in these at all. Just follow your order of operations like you've been doing since you were in 6th grade. Now go ahead and pause this video and work on this next problem on your own. How'd that one go for you? If it was me working the problem, first thing I would do is make that ugly problem pretty, because I don't like ugly in my problems. So I'm going to have 11 times a negative 2 times a negative 4 plus 10. From there, 11 times a negative 2, negative 22 times a negative 4 plus 10. Next, 4 times 22, that's going to be 88. A negative times a negative is a positive. Plus 10 equals 98 for my final answer. Jumping back over to the textbook, we're going to type in our 98, hit check the answer, and it checks. Good supporting work. Everybody's happy. Or at least I hope you're happy. If you got the answer right, you should be happy. This is what I must see. If I see anything less than all of this supporting work on your homework, you will, of course, have done it just for fun. It is time we step up our game with example number 3, where they give us all kind of horrible, ugly things to look at. First off, we get variables. So you have w divided by the product of x and y, all added to the difference of y and z cubed. And the first thing we have to do is substitute in these values for the variable, which I think the textbook does a pretty good job on this one. So we're going to see if we can stick with it instead of doing it on our own. So here you can see where they substituted in. W was 36, x was negative 6, y was negative 1, and so on. And now it's time to work that order of operations. Now in PEMDAS, remember the P's for parentheses and other grouping symbols. And the first other grouping symbol I actually see, oh, well, they skipped over that. They went straight to the exponents instead. Negative 2 cubed, that's negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2, and that's going to give us a negative 8. So from there, we get our negative 8. The next thing they're going to do is they're going to take and focus on this part, because you got invisible parentheses right here holding these two together. Negative 6 times the negative 1, give them a positive 6, which you can see right here. From there, the next thing they did is 36 divided by 6, because what we're doing is multiply and divide from left to right. In my dearest part of my, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, 36 divided by 6, that's going to equal to a positive 6. That part checks. And now, if it was me working this one, I would be making that ugly problem pretty. In fact, I would have done it way up here. You have a negative times a negative, which is a positive. They didn't do that yet. What they did is they said, well, yeah, let's just take it this point. I don't really like what they're doing at this point, so I'm going to take it back a step. And we're going to do a screenshot of what they have right here. And we're going to jump over to our document. And we're going to paste that in. And we're going to pick up working, and you just ignore what I have up there for the other. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off by making the ugly problem pretty from this point. Like I said, personally, I would have done it higher up. But that's okay. That's become a negative, and those can become a positive. So now I have 6 minus 1 plus 8. 6 minus 1, that's become 5. 5 plus 8, that's going to equal to 13. And 13 is going to end up being your final answer for that one. Now, they're going to get the same thing, but they're not going to be, they're not going to be making their ugly problem pretty as they do it. They're just going to kind of go all of a sudden, boom, there it is. And I really prefer, that's where they made the ugly problem pretty on one part, but not on the other part. But in the end, the answer is the same, 13. Make your ugly problem pretty. It'll make it a lot less likely that you're going to make mistakes working these problems. You go ahead and pause the video, do extra example number 3, and we're getting close to finishing the lesson. How did it end up working out for you? Let's take a look at what I would do. I would start off by substituting in my values here. So, oops, my screen got messed up. Hold on just a second. I'm not sure how that happened. Alright, so now I've got A's value is going to be 4 times B's value is going to be a negative 10, all divided by C's value is going to be 5. Minus, in parentheses, D is going to be a negative 2, and C, that's still going to be a 5. From here, we're going to do our PEMDAS first, our parentheses first. So we're going to leave that 4 times the negative 10 alone, divided by 5, minus, and then inside these grouping symbols, I have a negative 2 plus 5. Signs are different. Find the difference with a sign in front of our larger number going into our answer. Now, multiply and divide from left to right. We got to take care of these invisible parentheses that are right there before we can do any division. So 4 times the negative 10, that's become a negative 40, divided by 5, minus 3. Now we're going to take and move this up a little bit so we have room to finish our problem. Next, we're going to say negative 40 divided by 5. 40 divided by 5 is 8. Negative divided by positive is a negative, minus 3. And finally, signs are the same. Find the sum with a sign in front of your larger number going in front of your answer, making it a negative 11. Now, example 4 gives us a word problem involving a formula for converting between Celsius and Fahrenheit. The average temperature in January in Helsinki, Finland is about negative 5 degrees Celsius. And we can use the expression where C is the temperature in degrees Celsius to find the temperature in degrees Fahrenheit and round to the nearest degree as necessary. So the first thing they did, and got a lot of work going on here, let's see if it makes sense to us. They took the original equation and where they had a C, they plugged in a negative 5. Now remember, you have invisible parentheses up here on the top. You've got to do everything on the top first before you can do what's listed on the bottom. So left to right, multiply left to right, 9 times the negative 5, that gave them a negative 45. Everything else came down. Next, signs were different. Find the difference, which is 115. Everything else came down. And then 115 divided by 5, that gave them a positive 23 for their final answer. You put in 23 degrees Fahrenheit, check it, and it checks. That is a really good way to show your work. I've got no issue with what they did on that one. Now it's time for you to pause the video and do our very last extra example problem. Work on that on your own, and then we will come back and look at it together. So for this problem, we're looking at the average high temperature in Fairbanks, Alaska in December. This is, which it says is going to be 5 degrees Fahrenheit. Guys, that's the average high temperature, 5 degrees Fahrenheit. Not a place I want to live. And they give us a formula for taking and converting from degrees Fahrenheit to degrees Celsius. To find out what that's going to be, we're going to take the formula we have, which is right there, and plug in what we know. We know that the Fahrenheit is 5 degrees, and everything else we're just going to fill in the spots. Next, we're going to take and do inside our parentheses for the PEMDAS, 5 minus 32. That's going to give me a negative 27. So our next stop's going to look just like that. And then 5 times the negative 27, well, that's going to give me a negative 135 divided by 9, which is going to go right there. And then 135 divided by 9, that's going to become 15. And a negative divided by positive is going to give me a negative. For a negative, not sure where that other stray mark came from, but a negative 15 is going to be my final answer. With that, our lesson is done. You guys go ahead and start working on your homework and bring any questions you have to me in class tomorrow.